Hi again, everyone. I'm Ollie Matthews. This is the Narcissistic Resistance, and this resistance video is also sponsored by contribution from Treasure Travel. And here's her story. Delilah by Treasure Travel. Hi, Ollie. Just finished watching your video entitled Disappearing Narcissist. The letter was submitted to you from a woman whose mother would disappear at important functions into another room in order to be a martyr and basically try to rain on everyone's parade. My mother did not disappear, but instead would ruin every holiday or trips with moods or rages. You know what that's like. Was married to one. Without fail, whenever the family was having a moment of harmony, my mother would start jabbing at someone to ruin their happiness and break up the party. Another tactic that my mother used was to get out the loud vacuum cleaner and vacuum, sometimes with exaggerated, angry strokes and sometimes nonchalantly as if to disguise the fact she was vacuuming to manipulate. Vacuuming in the same room always served in a pinch to physically disrupt the conversation between my brother and father. My mother was always jealous of the fact that my father loved my brother more than he loved his wife. Additionally, the vacuum interfered with the TV rabbit ears reception and frequency. And frequently, my mother suddenly needed to vacuum when us kids were enjoying a program. We would beg her to stop, but she said she needed to vacuum and would continue. My mother did the same thing. It's notice me, notice me, notice me. I'm going to make it about me. The disappearing narcissist letter also went into detail about how the narcissist mother would ruin her daughter's personal belongings. Ollie, your analysis validated this lady's suspicions that her mother did these things intentionally. Of course she did. Hearing about how this lady's mother purposely sabotaged her events and her possessions in order to erode her self-esteem really saddened me, and I had to admit that many of the things that my mother did accidentally that hurt me can only logically be explained in hindsight as non-accidental and done with purpose and malice. Some of these things were little and petty and some were major. Yeah, but they're all meant to drive you insane. You know, they do it, and then the petty and the major stuff all just merge into one, and you don't know what's what. Once we understand the narcissist mother's modus operandi, then looking back and re-examining things from the past that made no sense to us in the moment suddenly become clear and inexcusable. The understanding that my own mother was purposely running interference with my happiness throughout my whole childhood has been a very bitter pill for me to swallow. Right, because you were just there as entertainment. The video brought on a flood of memories about how my own mother ruined things of mine and the painful realization that it was, in most cases, calculating and evil. I don't think every shitty thing she did was intentional, but a major characteristic of my mother is that she never, ever apologized for anything. And again, we all look too much into an apology because an apology from a narcissist, it's meaningless. It's meaningless. I wanted to share some examples in case it helps others because these situations are not sexual or physical abuse. They are more subtle, and I am not trying to whine or suggest that these things are comparable. The subtle things do, however, add up and erode one's self-esteem and trust. The unrelenting verbal abuse and passive-aggressive sabotage is insidious and results in anxiety and depression and social problems in the adult child that is well established in psychiatric science. I understand that to a normal person raised by normal loving parents, the situations I describe when examined individually seem insignificant and even petty. One really has to have experienced this type of abuse to understand it, so I'm writing this out for my own validation, and if it might help others validate their own experiences. Below are some examples from my childhood and my young adulthood. Before I even read it, again, a broken plate's a broken plate. Yeah, sexual abuse and physical abuse is worse, but this mental abuse is just as bad. It's just as damaging. When I was 8, my infant brother was around 4 months old. I came home from school to find my teddy bear, Delilah, ruined. My mother had cut out her button eyes and nose, ruining her face. I was so devastated to see this and cried and asked my mother why she did that. And she said very nonchalantly, "Your brother wanted it." She said she had cut out the eyes and nose because the components posed a choking hazard, and she insinuated I was being selfish for being upset. The real message, however, was you don't count as much as your brother. Exactly. It wasn't a choking hazard when you had it, though. There were lots of toys she could have given him, but Delilah was very precious to me, and she knew that. I got this teddy bear when I was 4. I had no furry pets as a child because my mother was allergic. So maybe that made this teddy that much more special to me as a sensitive animal lover. Delilah hid under my bed with me many times when I was little and my mother was drunk. Delilah's sad expression seemed sympathetic at those times. Delilah was ruined and ended up in the trash. There are numerous other instances in my childhood that branded it into my soul that I did not count, but Delilah is one of the first. That's horrible. That's just disgusting. When I was in 10th grade, I wrote a major term paper for an advanced history class. We were given 3 months, and the paper would constitute half our final grade. Back in those days, there was no internet, so the research involved hours each week in the library, painstakingly reading lots of material in order to search the text for relevant information, putting in requests for interlibrary transfer of books, etc. The paper needed to be typed, and it was due the next day. Oh my God. My mother got me a D on a paper in 8th grade because she refused to type. She typed it a day late and wouldn't type it on time and then grounded me for getting a D. And this was something she knew weeks ahead of time because it was another paper I had done. I had did a lot of reading. It was a political paper I did. And that's because I cared about it. That's why I put time into it. And she knew it. I was a workaholic and had gone above and beyond to research this paper and was a good writer. Also of note in this trauma is that I got serious shit from my mother and father if I failed to get straight A's. It made me into a perfectionist, and it served to erode my self-esteem into adulthood. My mother offered to type this paper on her electric Smith Corona. I was surprised since my mother did not do favors for me. I thanked her. Around 11 p.m., I read the typed version, and to my horror, she made major changes, eliminated whole sentences, changed many sentences to passive voice and poor grammar, and rearranged things to actually change the intended points. I told my mother I was very upset and needed to retype the whole thing, since she made changes throughout this 15-page paper. She snapped at me, accusing me of being ungrateful to her for doing me a favor, and said that she had to make the changes because my writing was so poor. My father, a smart man, had proofed the final hard-written paper for me and liked it and agreed that she should not have made any changes. I needed to retype the whole thing, and she threatened to not let me use her effing Smith Corona just to taunt me more. I was up till 3 in the morning retyping this and seething with anger. I got an A on that retyped paper from the very picky teacher, thus proving I was a good writer and the subject matter was well handled. Well, it was a good thing that you proofread what you got back, because I didn't even proofread what I got back, and what I had to find out is my mother couldn't type for shit. Errors, and probably on purpose, probably not, but that's probably why she couldn't hold an office job either, other than a government one that you can't be fired. Know what it made me do, though? It made me go take typing in high school. And if you ever heard me, I type very, very well. Never again. Never again with that shit. Here is a third example of my mother shitting on my parade and ruining a possession. At the end of my senior year of high school, I was invited to an awards ceremony for big top biology students. Oh, I'm sorry, for top biology students. I was going to wear a fancy cotton skirt and matching top that I had purchased from a clothing store where I worked from age 15 and earned the money necessary to pay for all my clothes. My mother offered to iron this outfit for me, and I thanked her. I told her that it was the type of delicate cotton that required protective cloth for ironing, and she said, as it said in the instructions, and she said she knew how to iron. Instead, she ironed it on high without a cloth and created a long, light scorch marks on it. Of course, I had to wear it the way it was, and as I had very few outfits, I had to leave in a few minutes. I was upset that she had done this, but she berated me for not appreciating her doing me a favor, as she said that although she had planned to attend the ceremony, she was not going to because I was such a horrible, ungrateful, and selfish person. Truth be told, my mother never attended any school ceremonies, awards, recitals, etc., so I am sure she did not want to go and use my insubordinate behavior as an excuse. This outfit sabotage for an important event reminds me of how one of your other videos, Ollie, which features a young woman who recalled her mother locking her prom dress in the trunk of the car on a prom night. It's emotional. You say you weren't sexually abused, but you're being emotionally raped. This is emotional rape. That's what the narcissist does. They emotionally rape you and then want you to thank them for it, just like the rapist does. Just like a rapist will make their victim tell them they like it as they're going on. That's what the emotional rapist does. That's what your mother is. They are emotional rapists. Because then they want you to tell them you like it. Her rejecting you for insubordinate behavior is you just being a whore and asking for it. Stop making comparisons of abuse. Abuse is abuse. Broken plate is a broken fucking plate. This is emotional rape. Here is a fourth example, albeit a more trivial one. When my husband and I were first married, money was extremely tight. We had very few kitchen supplies, but we always had a very expensive non-sticky fry pan. On 2 separate visits, my mother ruined two expensive stick-free fry pans. I would give her a plastic spatula and tell her that only the plastic utensils could be used with the pan in order to protect the finish. I always wondered if the act of me telling her in a friendly way what to do served as her motivation to do the opposite, because each time the pan would have a deep gouging scratch on the first finish across the whole length of the pan, rendering it trash. You know, it is actually difficult to ruin one of those pans in this manner accidentally. For years I told myself that I was being paranoid, that being paranoid and thinking that perhaps she ruined something on purpose. But her MO has become crystal clear in hindsight after studying the classic tactics of narcissist mothers. She had a lot of money, so if she had ruined the pan accidentally, she would not have insisted on giving us money, but to buy a new one. My mother also broke various glass items in my kitchen, and I assume she was very accident prone. I know that some of these things appear to be trivial. They're not. They're not. And maybe they are. And to a normal person from a normal family with a normal mother, I would be judged as a paranoid and unloving daughter. However, I am actually a very compassionate person who has tried desperately over the years to earn the love of my parents. You can't make this shit up. Treasure trouble. Yeah, your parents are. This is emotional rape. Yeah, you telling her not to do it is only going to make her do it. It's you asking for it. You're asking for it. What are you doing coming out dressed like that? You're asking for it. Don't tell me what not to do. Don't tell me what's important to you. You're asking for it. Your mother is a narcissistic emotional rapist. They're kings. It's like I told you in the last video. We be kings, you're the jester. And the jester's part, that what the royalty wants to do is emotionally rape the jester. There you have it, treasure. There you have it. So, thank you for your 2 contributions and stories. I really appreciate you and really appreciate it. I hope this helps. So thank you again. Thank you once again to everybody watching. Please leave any opinions or advice in the comments section below. And again, if you want your story read on the channel, you have a topic you'd like me to cover, a narcissist you'd like to expose, you'd like to set up a Skype chat, phone call, have a private video made, or a Facebook chat, or you'd like to sponsor a video like this for someone who needs help and can't afford it, or just sponsor the channel in general for equipment, see it grow and expand. Excuse me. You know what to do with the PayPal and email links in the description box. And if you're still unclear, wait for the video link to pop up on the screen at the end of this video to walk you through all of that. And if you're not seeing it, make sure your pop-up blocker is not on. Please like and share this video wherever you can. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't. And be sure to click the subscription bell to be notified of all my video uploads. I'm Ollie Matthews. This has been the Narcissistic Resistance.